Mr. President, I just want to continue on the subject that I was just referencing. And this is a story from Oklahoma that is on the wires right now across the country. Here's the headline: Judge orders Oklahoma Attorney General Scott Pruitt to release emails related to fossil fuel industry. Let me just read a little bit of this news story. This is Oklahoma City, Dateline. A judge has ruled that Americans have a right to know how much of a relationship Oklahoma Attorney General Scott Pruitt has with oil and gas leaders before becoming head of the Environmental Protection Agency. The story continues. For years, Pruitt has been an outspoken adversary of the EPA and is currently suing the agency. In December, President Donald Trump selected Pruitt to lead the agency despite concerns from lawmakers. In a 2014 New York Times report, it claimed that Pruitt's ties to Devon Energy Corporation directly influenced decisions he made while in office in Oklahoma. Through open records requests, the New York Times obtained a letter written by Devon's attorneys, which was then sent to Pruitt. The article states, quote, "The Attorney General's staff had taken Devon's draft, copied it onto state government stationery with only a few word changes, and sent it to Washington with the Attorney General's signature. In 2014, KFOR asked for a comment to the allegations, but received a statement focusing on the benefits of the oil industry." 6 senators from the Senate Environment and Public Works Committee have now asked Attorney General Pruitt to list his connections to energy companies so they can decide whether those interactions will affect how he will run the EPA. The Center for Media and Democracy filed 9 open records requests with the AG's office beginning in January of 2015. Probably the largest request we have is for communication, emails, phones, calls, and scheduling related to the involvement with various energy companies, as well as his involvement with the Republican Attorney Generals Association. Attorney Blake Lawrence said. The group alleges that Pruitt received nearly $350,000 in campaign contributions from the fossil fuel industry. They want his dealings with those in the industry public and soon. Just last week, our office contacted the Center for Media and Democracy to notify them that release of their request was imminent. The fact that they have now filed suit despite our ongoing communication demonstrates that this is nothing more than political theater, AG spokesman Lincoln Ferguson said in a statement. According to The Hill, a newspaper here in Washington, Democrats asked Pruitt for the documents as part of his confirmation hearing, but he declined instead. He told them to file public records requests themselves. Now, a judge has ordered Oklahoma Attorney General's office to turn over close to 3,000 documents related to Pruitt's communications with oil, gas, and coal companies, according to E&E News. Pruitt's office has until Tuesday to release the emails, but his confirmation vote was originally believed to be held Friday, February 17th, meaning today, in 5 more minutes. Scott Pruitt and Senate Republicans have made a mockery of the confirmation process, permitting the nominee to escape scrutiny and hide his deep ties to the fossil fuel industry. What is he hiding in all of those emails? The vote to confirm Pruitt must now be delayed, and every senator can see just who Pruitt is and what he will do if permitted to run the EPA, a statement from the Sierra Club read. So that's where we are right now, ladies and gentlemen. We're 6 minutes to midnight on Thursday night. The vote is now scheduled in 13 hours and 5 minutes here on the Senate floor. These emails are going to be released next Tuesday so that there can be a public examination of them to finally determine what is the relationship between Scott Pruitt and these industries who he will be given responsibility to regulate. What are they hiding? Why are they rushing? Why won't they give the American people the ability to find out what is inside of these emails before there is a vote here on the Senate floor? Because once that vote takes place, he will be the head of the EPA, and then we will find out what conflicts may exist, what relationships may exist, what decisions had been made. But no, the Senate leadership will not give the American people the respect they deserve to ensure that all of that information is out for public viewing, that they can make an informed judgment as to the exact nature of the relationships between this nominee for the EPA and industries that he has had responsibility for regulating in Oklahoma, and he will have responsibility for regulating as the head of the National Environmental Protection Agency. It is an absolute unacceptable policy to know that critical information that makes it possible for the public and the Senate to understand a candidate for such a powerful office to be available and yet not, in fact, considered as part of this historic decision. And so for me, it is a march to folly. It is, it is just another example of how the Republican Party, the GOP has just become the gas and oil party. That's really what it stands for now. Just committed to ensuring that they cover up what's in these emails. They don't give the public the chance to be able to understand what these potential explosive relationships may be, so that the Senate can deliberate fully on whether or not Mr. Pruitt does, in fact, qualify to be an impartial head of the Environmental Protection Agency of our country. And ultimately of the world, because the world looks to us to determine where climate change is going, where environmental protections are going, not just for our own citizens, but for theirs as well. What we do is replicated inevitably, inexorably in the rest of the world. This man will have one of the most powerful positions on the planet. Emails are available right now if we just waited to help us in our deliberation. It is really a tragedy. It's a sad commentary upon this institution that rather than just delaying, examining, and then giving the public the information they need in the Senate, that instead we rush to judgment. We rush to judgment, but ultimately the judgment of history is going to be on us if it is determined through these emails that Mr. Pruitt is unqualified for this position, that the conflicts which he's had disqualify him for this position, that the emails disclose to us the conflicts of interest that are going to ultimately impair his ability to be impartial in his regulation of clean air and clean water and mercury and haze and soot and smog and this whole litany of issues that go right to the public health and safety of every American. And so from my perspective, it's a sad day in the Senate when the information is now available. A brief delay would make it possible for each senator to be able to make an informed decision, and yet the Senate moves on, not waiting, not listening, not willing to give the American public the information they will need to make an informed decision that they can then give to their senators to make a wise decision that could lead to much stronger protections that they can receive from this critical agency that is the overseer of the environment in our country. So again, Mr. President, I oppose Mr. Pruitt's nomination. I would ask for a delay. I know it's not going to happen. I understand why, but it's a sad day in the history of the Senate. And with that, Mr. President, I would like to reclaim the balance of my time and yield back to you, Mr. President.